The 2014 Scare Us Silly Game Creation Challenge was the best Halloween event in Roblox history, and nobody seems to remember it. In 2014, Roblox wanted to try something new for Halloween by bringing back an old classic in a new way. Building contests used to be the bread and butter of Roblox events. There was a period from around 2010 to 2012 when a new one would happen multiple times every month. It makes sense when you think about it. Roblox's main purpose has always been, and will always be, building games. A contest that offers hat prizes in exchange for building and voting on themed games is a great way to encourage this in theory, but the way Roblox was doing it in the early 2010s had quality control problems. Because the voting was left entirely to the community, the winners of these contests would often be base plates covered in free models that lured in votes with eye-catching thumbnails. This time would be different. Not only would the prize be beefed up, the ultimate winner would receive a hat and 100,000 Robux, but the quality control and judging would be done by Roblox themselves. This, coupled with 2014's improved building resources compared to 2010, and Roblox's encouragement for experienced developers to participate, would no doubt lead to some iconic and, for 2014 standards, incredible games being created. And because the idea for this just so happened to form right around Halloween, the games would be spooky. Very spooky. Everything went exactly to plan, and numerous high-quality finalist games were indeed created. With how well received this event was, and by how Roblox was talking, it seemed destined to become a quarterly tradition with a different theme every time, similar to how building contests used to be. But when the next quarter came around, nothing. Roblox would never do another game creation challenge again. As for the first and only one they did, because most of the finalist developers didn't bother updating their games after the contest since they were side projects built in just a few weeks, most of them are either private or broken now, and they, along with the contest as a whole, have fallen deep into the pits of Roblox obscurity. And when that happens, somehow, it always seems to catch my eye. It's time someone drags them back out again and takes a deep and close retrospective look at the best Halloween Roblox event of all time. Maybe Roblox can learn a thing or two from this, and make sure their next Halloween event after this disaster is up to snuff. For this contest, anyone on Roblox was allowed to submit an entry. Roblox would then vet each and every entry to make sure it fit into their guidelines. It was on theme, it was an original concept, it was made within the given time frame, etc. The contest would go on for around 3 weeks. Roblox would then select 13 finalists out of all the accepted submissions, and later on, one overall winner. Each of the developers of the finalist games would receive a special GCC top hat, but only the winning developers would walk away with money. That sounds like a pretty good deal, but not anything terribly groundbreaking. But remember, the best part of the GCC lied not in how it worked, but what it produced. In addition to examining this contest as a whole, we must examine each of the 13 finalists to see how good this event truly was. Oasis by Malstronomer and Captain Rackham is a game that takes place in 1674, where you play as a sailor on an old-timey ship. At the start of the game, your ship immediately gets yeeted into oblivion by some sort of tentacled monster, and you end up washing ashore on a mysterious island ghost town. This is the town of Oasis, a misty, ruined town with an interesting past to say the least, as described by the 9 pages you must find over the course of the game. This game actually has quite complex lore behind it, especially for a game that was developed in 3 weeks in 2014, which Captain Rackham was luckily kind enough to summarize in a forum post. Most of the pages you find throughout the town were written by a man called Edward, who was in love with a woman called Mercedes and enemies with a pirate times mafia boss called Rackham. They all lived in Oasis, a lawless and isolated town that almost never saw any outside visitors, until one day, a mysterious hooded traveler showed up. From the moment the traveler showed up, tensions in town were on the rise, as he was seen snooping around at night, and very soon after his arrival, the town learned that they would not be receiving a new food supply as someone, or something, had attacked the ships carrying their imports. As things seemed to be reaching a breaking point, Edward tried to leave, but someone destroyed the rowboat he was going to use to escape. So, he was there to bear witness when Rackham killed the Traveler, and retrieved the golden key he was trying to hide. He then followed Rackham to an underwater cave, inside of which was buried a large treasure chest. There was a struggle. Edward got beaten pretty badly, but somehow, he gathered the strength to stab Rackham to death with his own cutlass, only to find that he was just a little too late, because Rackham had already disturbed the treasure, thus drawing the ire of the beast attached to it. The thing that had attacked your ship and the ships of those food importers years ago wasn't just attacking ships for fun. It was chasing its treasure hoard, and the Traveler had buried it in Oasis in hopes of attaching the beast to the town forever, thus sacrificing the town for the greater good. In its rage, the beast slaughtered all of the townspeople, including Edward's beloved Mercedes. All except Edward himself, who barricaded himself in an empty home and died of starvation. Anyway, that's all well and good, but the game itself is kinda ass. That's an exaggeration. Don't get me wrong, the map is very well built and expansive, especially for 2014 standards, but I think they put most of their 3 weeks into that and the lore and skimped out on the gameplay a little bit. Because all that really happens is you go around reading this story, pick up the hammer and nails and treasure that you need to fix the rowboat, and sail away scot-free. The ghosts of Rackham and Mercedes do spook you a little bit. Rackham stands there menacingly in the corner of your eye a few times, and Mercedes beams some bloody foreboding text into your head near the end. But you're never in danger of actually dying from them. It's truly just a completely linear story. It'd probably be more fun if I could actually play it, but the script to pick up tools broke at some point, and Malstronomer never bothered to fix it. So the only way I know about the ending is because of this gameplay footage with the frame rate of a set of Neolithic cave paintings. Hotel is a game by Immersor that takes place in what else? Not a hotel. Immersor, if you're listening to this, I'm gonna sue you for false advertising and win $100 billion. Watch your back. You wake up in what looks kinda like a hotel, but you quickly realize by reading the notes scattered around the map that it's actually a mental asylum. Cowards. You also realize that the game is completely unplayable in the year 2024, so it's the bank security footage camera once again, I'm sorry. Hotel is actually pretty similar to Oasis, with your goal being to find keys and pages around the map and eventually unlock the exit. There's lore too. You were invited to this place by an unnamed old friend. While exploring, you learn that at some point, all the doctors in the asylum went crazy except one Dr. Martin and one Nurse Smith. You run into some creepy encounters such as a loud, mysterious entity, a knife in a bloody bed, and an actual hanging guy. It's just straight up a guy who hanged himself. I was so surprised by this. Roblox would never allow anything like this in their games nowadays, yet here was a full-on dead, suicided corpse being proudly promoted as a finalist in their official Halloween building contest. It and the legitimately unsettling heavy breathing audio that plays after your encounter with the entity no doubt scarred thousands of children, which is what a good horror game should do, so I'm not complaining. But after that, you ultimately make your way into the hall, only to be knocked out and dragged away by the loud, mysterious entity from earlier. When you come to, you find another note, which tells you that at some point, Nurse Smith was also pronounced crazy, and was placed under the care of Dr. Martin. Continuing down the halls, you find a couple more notes from your old friend, telling you to keep on going, and you're on the brink of remembering something. And then, 2 final notes. Your name is Martin. And now, you will pay for your crime. Another is a game by Unclear, which is about, I don't know. I don't know what it's about. You can't get past the loading screen anymore, and the game was apparently long enough to make it so that only one person ever uploaded a full playthrough of it to YouTube, and it's in 2 times speed, and the resolution is so low and the text so small that it's literally impossible to read. There are a few fragmented parts of the gameplay uploaded to YouTube in higher resolution, and from what I can gather from those, you play as a person being made to go through a mental experiment by a twisted murderer who comes through as a voice on a radio. The murderer tells you the story of how he befriended and ultimately killed a little girl named Alice and her father. There are several untied plot threads though, like how the murderer keeps talking about a mansion he would see on his way to school,
almost as if we, the house and I, were sharing a sublime moment accompanied by the backdrop of wind and gently age.
And how the father and Alice locked him in a storage closet at some point, implying that our murderer might be some inanimate object like a doll. These kinds of questions are never truly answered from what I can tell though, even in the absurdly low-res footage. I doubt that these final unreadable words say anything that would make all of my questions regarding this game clear, but hey, this game is developed by Unclear, so I guess that makes sense. While editing, I actually managed to find a not good, but at the very least legible playthrough of this game, and I even took the time to parse through the footage and note every single lore clue I could find in a document, and I still have no idea what it's about. Feel free to pause the video and read through this document yourself, and leave a comment if you have any idea what's going on here, but right now this makes about as much sense to me as ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. I am so confused. Oh look, a game I can actually play. Bloodfest by Duneyes is a title that some of you actually might know. It's the most popular game featured in this video by far, at over 69 million visits, and it's the only one to still have an active player base to this day. But I'll bet you didn't know that it started out as a humble 3-week development time entry into the Game Creation Challenge all the way back in 2014. If you've played literally any COD-esque zombie shooter before, you know how to play this game. There are 15 waves, you shoot zombies to get money to get better weapons to shoot more zombies, rinse and repeat, profit. It's a very simple game, and at its core, it hasn't really changed much since 2014. There's been new zombies, maps, and weapons, sure, but the style and objective of the game has remained largely the same for its entire life. If you were to take a 2014 player and time travel them to the 2024 version of Bloodfest, they probably wouldn't be too confused. And yet, like natural disaster survival, it still retains some of its popularity to this day. Just goes to show how far a fun, identity-driven game loop can get you, no matter how repetitive. This is a genuinely fun game. I only intended to play a few waves for this recording, but ended up playing all the way to the boss in the end. I recommend giving it a try after this video. Trick or Traitors by Forseye, Mechawaffle, Northern Shoob, and Mazejaker is similar to Bloodfest in that its developers still care about it somewhat. It was updated relatively recently, but different in that it fell off super hard. It's a fun game, don't get me wrong. It was a finalist in the Game Creation Challenge for a reason. You play as either a trick-or-treater who runs around the map collecting candy, or the Nightmare, who attacks trick-or-treaters with weapons. If the Nightmare kills you as a trick-or-treater, you become a bad dream, and are able to kill other players in service of the Nightmare. It's basically Halloween-themed infection tag. There are a few ways to spice up your gameplay, such as buying different costumes, potions, and weapons with the candy you collect, but there's only one map, and the UI is not optimized for mobile like at all. So all in all, it's pretty unsurprising that it failed to keep its hype up for 10 years. But at least it still works, which is more than we can say for 2/3 of this list so far. Guys, it's time to get serious now. Time to get
deep.
Time to get
deeper than the Marianas Trench.
Time to get philosophical. I'm talking about Cliff Fear by Quenti and Axis Angle. In this game, you have 2 options. Or at least you did when it was still playable and not just an empty husk frozen in time. Walk to freedom, or face your fears. Your first instinct will probably be face your fears, but if you do so, you'll be punished. This might lead you to want to walk to freedom, and if you do that, you'll live in paradise, but you'll never be happy. So, no matter what, when all is said and done, you'll choose to venture into the unknown and face your fears, despite the danger. When you finally make it across that terrifying, treacherous rope, you'll arrive at a house. But your nightmare still isn't over. because this is the House of Doom. You feel the ground start to shake beneath you. The floor falls away to reveal a pit to the most scalding, fiery depths of hell. And at the bottom of that pit, rising up through the ashes, lay Epic Duck, which then explodes. Yes, this game was actually a finalist. Up next is probably my least favorite out of all the finalists, Fatal Frame. I don't mean to disparage the developers of this game, Yasu Yoshida and Hollow Mario Fan, too hard, but they made one of the most disorienting and infuriating games I've seen in a minute. There's no backstory, no instructions, you're just kinda dumped into this dark, creepy, hospital-looking facility with a couple of jump scares in it and have to somehow find your way out of it before the batteries on your night vision camera die. I had to watch 3 different gameplay footages of this game on YouTube because in the first 2, the players just gave up before coming close to finishing the game. This guy didn't even figure out he had a night vision camera on him until the last few minutes of his 31-minute video. And then, when I finally found someone who did manage to beat the game, I was completely lost on how he did it. And so is he.
Oh. What happened? Did I win? Oh.
I don't want to bother with the incredibly boring task of scrubbing through this -5 FPS footage to try and see how he opened this hole in the wall in order to beat the game myself, and luckily, I don't have to, because this game is now private. Even the developers themselves admit that this game is terrible and has no storyline. I will at least give them praise for making an actual game instead of a base plate with a few ghost models on it, which is what I'm sure 90% of the entries to this challenge were, but it's very bare bones, and it was definitely privated for a reason. Obedience by Geomaster and Boff of D's is another dark game, but in the metaphorical sense this time. You play as a convicted murderer being made to go through a last-ditch mental rehabilitation program before being put to death. A mysterious voice tells you that if you make it through the facility while obeying the voice's instructions exactly, you'll get to leave a free man. But if you miss a single instruction, you'll be immediately euthanized. You're also warned that your subconscious might manifest as something scary in order to stop you from proceeding. After making your way through some pretty simple challenges, your final task is to open the exit by killing a man, the only thing you're good for. He doesn't die until you've electrocuted him 3 times.
No! 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 No!
Once you've done that, it's as simple as walking up to the exit elevator and pressing the big red button. Or so you think. Suddenly, your subconscious, who's been subtly dropping hints and jump scares throughout the game, manifests before you as a white masked specter who begins chasing you. You try your best to flee away from him, but it's no use. You end up at a dead end. As he's closing in on you, everything fades to white. Next thing you know, you're on the train home. And then back at your house in the woods. A book left on the floor tells you everything. You built this house as your dream house with your partner, and everything seemed to be going well for you two until she got sick. You tried many doctors, and you would obey everything she asked of you, but nothing you did would help her get better. Finally, one night, after you miraculously survived a train crash, you walked upstairs to tell your partner you were okay, only to see...
You'll be happier without me.
You then awake, only to learn that you were never in a prisoner rehab program. You were never a prisoner at all. You'd been undergoing hypnosis therapy, and you were supposed to be entirely alone inside your mind. Something manifested inside you to bring out the worst parts of your guilt, and what that is, you may never know. Like Hotel, Obedience was very dark and heavy, and it speaks to how good this event as a whole truly was. The developers of these games pulled no punches, and Roblox actually rewarded them for it instead of censoring them. Modern Roblox could never. Ghost in the Machine was a game by Soybean, whose main flaw was being a lot more machine than Ghost, if you ask me. As in, there's not really a ghost in it at all, it's really just a simple escape game. In it, you're a prisoner in a mysterious facility, which I'm starting to notice describes a whole lot of these games, actually. You've forgotten everything about your old life. Your cell is all you know. Until one day, you wake up to find your cell door left open for the first time in nearly 20 years. From there, you venture through the facility, clicking buttons, evading security protocols, and learning more and more about your predicament. You find out that the facility is owned by a private security company called Tarwell Industries, and you're contacted by a mysterious dark figure on various screens throughout the game that says he knows you, but you don't know him.
Hello. You don't know me, but I know you. It's no accident that you were freed from the cell today.
And helps you escape. And as far as lore goes, that's pretty much it. You just keep on avoiding Tarwell Security's security measures, mostly by pressing one button on a computer screen that I guess someone conveniently left open on their coffee break.
Hey, Bob. Great job gassing out that prisoner today. Say, you remembered to close out of that one unprotected button that anyone could press to immediately suck all the poison away, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I don't know why we even programmed that button, actually.
I think it's just because we're a little loopy since, you know, the building we filled with poisonous gas to kill one prisoner is also the building where we work and currently are.
Oh, right. The game ends with you escaping the facility, being warned that freedom has a price, and a devastating to be continued screen, considering that a sequel is nowhere to be found and the original game is now private. This game had a lot of potential considering how well developed it was, and the fact that Soybean would later go on to become the creator of the hit game Booga Booga, but it never really went anywhere. Pretty sad, honestly. Missing by the Lua user. Find stuffed monkey. Go to sleep. Have dream about creepy facility with stuffed monkey chasing you down and making loud noises. Profit. Next game. Red 44 Cedar 44 by fellow furry Pa00. This one's actually interesting. It's another facility crawler game, but with pretty interesting lore and insane special effects, especially for 2014 standards to go along with it. The year is 1986, and you play as a special investigator, tasked with exploring the abandoned labs of the once proud company Chimera AI. At one time, they were a well-funded, highly respected lab working on two well-intentioned artificial intelligences, Red 44 and Cedar 44. But somewhere along the line, something went awry. The AIs turned murderous, took form outside the computers they were bred in, and killed all of Chimera's scientists. It's up to you to venture deep into the labs and turn off the power. Cedar 44 is the more forward of the two AIs. Every 2 minutes, no matter where in the labs you are, he'll appear, and the only way to get him off your back is by hiding in a locker. If you fail to do this for too long, he'll jump scare you to death. Because I skipped the tutorial, this is something I only found out after 5 unsuccessful attempts to complete the entire game while outrunning him like a piggy character, and getting frustrated when he'd teleport through the walls. My bad. Red 44, on the other hand, is like Cedar 44's autistic brother. He's very averse to human contact, mostly chilling on his own in different areas of the lab. If you leave him alone, he's fine. But if you so much as look at him, you know the drill. This is another genuinely unsettling game. The dark facility lit up by only a realistic flashlight beam, the creepy sounds of unknown machinery and your own terrified breathing in the background, the fearful screen shake and bright lights when the AIs show up, and so many more elements combined to make a top-tier horror game, not just for 2014 standards, but honestly, full stop. People still enjoy this game today. It sits at 712k plus visits, and a popular YouTuber made a walkthrough of it just last year, despite its last update being 4 years ago. If Pa00 updated this game again with more maps and game modes and advertised it a little bit, I could see this game making a serious comeback sometime in the future. The final finalist of this ferociously frightening festivity formulation face-off was Stolen Soul by Poco Bob. tab. God, look at that logo. It looks like something I would have cooked up in Microsoft Word art to slap at the top of a book report in 5th grade. Unlike Ghost in the Machine, this game is pretty true to its title. You're a police officer investigating a missing persons report of 8 people late one night in a mysterious haunted mansion that's been abandoned for 64 years. As you'll soon find out, they're all dead, and your mission turns into a quest to free all 8 of their souls while enduring various jump scares. How do you free a soul? Well, it's an ancient, complex, detailed ritual that involves clicking your mouse. That's it. Once you find the final soul with this Grim Reaper guy, the story takes a turn as some of the most genuinely disturbing audio I've ever heard in a Roblox game plays. Seriously, if you're sensitive to loud, painful screaming, turn your volume down.
Not a speck of light is showing, so that the danger must be growing. All the fires of hell glowing. Is the grisly reaper mowing? Yes! That danger must be growing.
You wake up in a dungeon and have to find 3 keys to escape. Finally, the nightmare is over, and you end the game with a haunting, harrowing final line. Maybe I should just head home. This main character seriously has some of the most comical levels of chill I've ever seen. Here's his reaction to finding a blood-splattered sacrificial stone platform in the middle of a pool of lava. Well, this is just creepy. Bro reacts to bloody occult practices like a teenage millennial. Well, this is just spooky. I'm not feeling very epic narwhal bacon right now. I hate that I said that, please kill me. This game got the least visits out of all of the finalists by far at just 8,351. Unwarranted, in my opinion, considering that if nothing else, unlike in a certain other finalist, it at least lets you see where you're going most of the time. It even has a professional voice actor. Take a look at this cop and imagine what you think his voice is gonna sound like. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're wrong.
Sir, I hate to bother you this late in the day. However, there have been multiple reports of missing people. My notes show 8 in total. Please go check this out at the Toloria Mansion on the hill. I'm heading home now. I will see you in the morning.
So, there's all the finalists, but we're still not done. We can't forget about the game that actually won this event. The one, the only, Confined, a story of death and shadows, by Tyridge77, Legoman654, and Stroudy. Trigger warning, this is probably the darkest game of them all. It's entirely centered around death, particularly at one's own hand, so feel free to skip this one if you want. How oft the light does lie. How oft the dark discriminated. When death and woe their sickle reap, the darkest shadows shine reality and peace. We fade into a quiet, low-lit house in the middle of a rainstorm, and right off the bat, we're hit with the most horrifying scare out of all of these games. We're British.
Martha must be gone. Where would they go at this time of night? Why did they leave Brandon alone?
Our parents are nowhere to be found, and our baby brother Brandon is crying. We go up to check on him as loud sounds begin building up around us. Our own heavy breathing, our own heart beating, the rain, a creepy music box. The tension is rising, and it only gets worse as we leave Brandon's room after taking care of him and try to piece together our situation. Our memory is very fuzzy. Dark shadows and mysterious noises begin clouding our mind. We get trapped in a bedroom by a mysterious noise and are forced to jump out the window to escape. But it's no use staying out in the rain. We have to figure out what happened. So, we go back inside and head to the bathroom, where we see this. This is so much worse than a simple noose. I can kind of see Roblox being okay with a hanging man as long as it's a non-realistic person made out of plastic blocks, but this is so much more explicit that I'm probably putting it in black and white right now because I can't show the colored version on YouTube. I'm amazed that Roblox not only let this into their event, but then promoted it to millions of children. Like I said before, modern Roblox could never. The woman in the bath is our mother. After a bit more searching, we find our father. The sounds grow louder and louder as we rush around the house trying to process what's happened, and the darkness grows darker and darker. And here he stands as his world unfurls, as the dark subsides and his eyes prove ripe, and he sees the true reality to life. It's his time. No longer will he tremble in the shadows of his light. No longer will he witness the cruelties inside. He is now free to begin a new life. He is now free to close his eyes. Soon, before we even realize it, we can't see a thing. And then, a door, a light, and a final message from the narrator. We're all going to die eventually. So when the time comes that death greets us, embrace it. Accept the death. Accept the dark. Or forever be lost and confined in the false glimpse of light. Do I think that this was the best overall game in the event? No. And I'm sure the developers would agree. It's very short, it's got above average building and scripting, but not amazing, and there's not really much gameplay. It's mostly just a linear story. They only had a few days to build this, mind you, and they could only do so much. In terms of funness and replayability, I think Red 44, Cedar 44, and Bloodfest have Confined beaten. But that's not what Roblox was looking for the winner. They wanted something nobody's ever seen before, and I do think Confined was definitely the most unique out of all the finalists. To quote Roblox themselves, a large part of Confined's appeal is the lack of jump scares and other horror gimmicks you come to expect from games in the genre. Most of the time, the suspense is built slowly, with music and atmosphere. And this non-conventional approach to making a horror game definitely paid off. This is definitely one of, if not the heaviest and darkest games I've ever seen on Roblox. I would say go play it for yourself to get the full experience, but unfortunately, it's been made private. Nevertheless, I'm sure that, for the hundreds of thousands of people who did get to experience it, it left a lasting impression that they won't soon forget. So, what can we take from this whole event? What should Roblox strive to do going forward now that they've been reminded that this event existed? Well, it's like I said at the beginning of this video. Roblox's main purpose has always been and will always be building games. That's what keeps people coming back. That's what makes up Roblox's identity. The games. No, not those ones. A good Roblox event should do a lot of things. Have cool prizes, have a fun storyline, foster a sense of community, but the most important thing it can do is encourage users to build. Every event since the dawn of events themselves has done this in some way. If it hasn't been a building contest, Roblox has at the very least asked developers to build fun thematic challenges for users to compete in to win prizes. But when you take away any reason for the community to build whatsoever, when you start making developers create big updates to their games for nothing, that's when you've truly lost the plot and created a terrible event. Bring back quality-controlled, classic-style events that force developers to make awesome things. Crack down on clearly copied, soulless simulators that just award you prizes for standing in place and clicking your mouse a bunch. Heck, you could even bring back platform-wide building contests. Imagine how hard a 2024 version of this very game creation challenge would go. We would see so many cool games. The community would be fighting tooth and nail to try to get their favorite game to win, and the careers of so many up-and-coming developers could be jump-started. It would be a blast. Just ban GameFam from competing, and Big Games, and Telanthric, and Soul Studio, And that'll about do it for this video. I've been NitroLord, and I will see you all next time. Happy Halloween! Big thanks to Oreabird, Avery, Henry, Princey, Svikova789, Mech, K.Moment, E. Adamus, Peasel Polsky, Theory Periastron, Below Flames, Lucky Boy, Kelman Foz, SSS Graded, Notice Astra, and all the amazing people you see on screen for supporting me on Patreon. Patreon.com/NitroLord. A very good website.